The Holy Gospel according to Matthew, the 22nd chapter. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them this question: "What do you think of the Messiah? Whose son is he?" They said to him, "The son of David." He said to them, "Then how is it then that David by the Spirit calls him Lord, saying, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet'? If David thus calls him Lord, how can he be his son?" No one was able to give him an answer, nor from that day did anyone dare to ask him any more questions. The gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So last week, Pastor Doug started with a kid's song, so I'll start with one. Do you know this one? I don't want to be a Pharisee. Anyone? Anyone know that one? I don't want to be a Pharisee, 'cause they're not fair, you see. I just want to be a sheep, ba, 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 ba. Am I by myself? Okay, thank you. All right, some of you know this one. This is a huge text. This is a very, very important text. And I kind of want to put this into context with you as we remember why this is so important. So remember that this series, we started with Palm Sunday in a different way. Normally we do Palm Sunday at the end of Lent leading into Holy Week. But we moved Palm Sunday all the way to the beginning of Lent so that we can see all the things that Jesus did while he was in Jerusalem, for that week that he was in Jerusalem, and explore the different things that he taught and how he was teaching truth to power and why that created such anxiety that they went from welcoming him as Messiah to crying out for him to be crucified. So we're exploring that idea of Jesus having very controversial texts and very controversial messages during this time. And this one is very important to understand. So all the rabbis, so you have to understand that when Jesus was in Jerusalem, he would go into, some of you went to Israel, some people went to Israel not too long ago. Yeah, you went to Israel. If you remember, you would go up into the Temple Mount, and there was a huge courtyard before you got into the temple itself. And that was a place that rabbis and teachers and leaders would get together, and they would debate. They would have conversation. They would argue about different things. And so it was a space where you would hash out big topics. And so this is probably where Jesus was hanging around during these conversations. He was hanging out in that courtyard by the temple. Now, every rabbi, one of the things that each rabbi teaches is that they would order the commandments and that they would have a prime commandment, a number one, a greatest commandment, because they believed that, and so this is, okay, so I'm going to talk about something here that I learned a long time ago, but then in researching for this sermon, I couldn't back it up as truth or not, but it's really cool. So we're going to pretend like this is true until I find out maybe I'm a liar, but it's still cool. What I was taught was that whatever the first commandment was that rabbi's yoke, because that if you follow that command, all the rest of the law and the prophets follow behind it. Do you see how that works? If you do this, it will pull all the law behind it. So every rabbi had a greatest commandment. Every one of them had one. So when they asked Jesus what the greatest commandment was, this was actually offering up debate because they all differed in their opinion about which was the best. Gamaliel would have said it was the Sabbath. Shemuel would have said that it was, you will have no other gods before me. Jesus, when they ask Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? He quotes this really important passage to the Hebrew people called the Shema. Can you say Shema? Now that word means hear, listen, pay attention. And so it comes from Deuteronomy 6:4, where it says, "Hear, O Israel, listen, Israel, the Lord is your God, the Lord is one, and you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And you will teach this to your children, and you will recite this as you rise and as you go to sleep and as you walk down the road and as you eat." And it says, "You will bind this as a symbol to your hand, and you will place it as a sign upon your forehead, and you'll put it on the mantle of your doorposts." So this idea of the Shema is all around them all the time. Any of you have any Jewish friends that you've been to their house maybe? You might have noticed they have a little thing on their doorpost. It's called a mezuzah. Usually it's tilted a little bit in one way to be open to what God is doing. It's a mezuzah. And on that is a little letter sheen. It looks like almost like a W, and it's that first letter. It makes a sh sound in Hebrew, Shema. And so when you see that, they will touch that on the way in, because inside is a little scroll that says, "Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad." It tells that whole Shema. So Jesus is quoting a prayer that they would have all been very familiar with, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And then he says the second one is like the first. The second one is like the first, is to love your neighbor in the same way that you love yourself. The same way that you love your neighbor the same way you love yourself. Now, why was this such a threat? Because love is not an easy thing. We talk about love a lot here at Abiding Hope. We find that love is very important, and it's really easy to kind of just like use that word a lot and kind of think love is like, "Oh, I love you so much." You know what I mean? But love is harder than we kind of give it credit for. And it's hard to describe the words love, because in English, I would say in the same sentence, "I love my children," and I would also say, "I love grilled cheese and chili." But those are two very different kinds of love, right? So the kind of love that we're talking about here in Hebrew is chesed, and in Greek, it's agape. And we need to define this. And my favorite definition for love was written by a man named Greg Boyd. He's this amazing Presbyterian pastor and activist. He's incredible. And this is how he defines love. He says, "Love is giving unsurpassable worth to the other at cost to yourself." So let me say that again. It is giving unsurpassable worth to the other at cost to yourself. The idea is that when you love something, it costs you something. You have to give up something. You can't just kind of go on with life and love something and it doesn't cost you anything. Love costs you. The way I think about it is like when I became a dad, when I had children, I couldn't just go on with my life as I normally had. My identity changed. My priorities changed. What I could do with my life changed. I couldn't just be like, "Hey kids, good luck. I'm out of here. I'm going to go to Europe for a week." You know what I mean? They couldn't be like, they couldn't come home and be like, "Good luck finding something to eat." I had to put aside my time, my energy. I had to put what I wanted to do away so that I could hold my kids up, so that I could care for them, so that they could feel love and worth and knowing. Even when they said, "Dad, I hate you so much," because I asked them to do the dishes. Even when they're like, "I hate you," I still have to love them and surrender what I want for them to be alive, to give them they have worth to me that's beyond what I need for myself. Are you following me? Or in the way that I feel about my wife. When I married Tia, I could no longer just do whatever I felt like. I can't just hang out and go out with my friends. I couldn't just be like, "Good luck, darling. I hope everything works out all right. I'm going to leave for a couple of weeks. Or I'm just going to go buy whatever I want and good luck. I'm not going to pay any attention." I had to put away 1 + 1 to become one. And that meant I had to put away some things that I didn't want to put away in order to have worth in her. Do you see what I mean? That means, so for me and my relationship with my wife, I had to give up things in order to be loving. Y'all, I just got a puppy. Do you know how much I have to give up for this? Every day I've got to go home at 12:30 so it can pee. What? I have to put away, I've got to stop my life to go get an animal outside. Giving worth to the other costs us something. And here's the thing. This is why it is a threat. People in power don't want to give up power. People in power will do everything they can to hang on to power. They will do whatever they can to hang on to power. And they will create systems and structures and laws and work to make sure that they stay in power. Are you following me? But love says you've got to give up power. It means you've got to put yourself down so that the other can be lifted up. Jesus would say it, put it this way, the first become last, the last become first. Jesus would say that this is about the least. It's about surrendering the 99 to find the one. Jesus says the law that we are called to follow is a law of love, and love leads the law. You see, Jesus' yoke says, if you love God, you will be following the law. You can't love God and worship an idol, right? You can't love God and worship something else. And it says you have to love your neighbor as yourself. So you can't love your neighbor and murder them. You can't love your neighbor and lie to them. You can't love your neighbor and covet their things. You can't love your neighbor and steal, right? So if you love your neighbor, those things can't happen. And if the law does not uphold the law of love, Jesus broke that law over and over and over again. He wasn't allowed to heal on the Sabbath. What did he do? He loved that person too much to let them be sick anymore. And says, forget the law. Love is more important. Are you following me? So that even Jesus broke the law over and over because love is what the primary thing was. You see, at that time, the people in power wanted to hang on to their power, so they created laws and things and heavy-duty stuff to keep people in their place. And you'll hear some of these next week. Jesus, during this time, you don't get fluffy Jesus. Next week, you're going to hear these woes. And I have some of them memorized. They're some of my favorite things that Jesus says. Jesus says this, woe to you, you scribes, you Pharisees, you hypocrites. You will travel over land and sea to make a single convert and make them twice the sons of hell that you are. That's Jesus, y'all. The point being is that you are the religious ones. You're the ones who know God. You know, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And what are you doing? He says, woe to you. You will tithe your dill and your cumin and neglect justice. Meaning like, it's so important that you tithe, that you figure out in your herbs what is 10%. And yet you neglect justice. You neglect righteousness. You see, they're not following the law of love, and they're the religious people. So if you're a prostitute, a tax collector, a leper, somebody possessed by demons, Jesus loves you and has infinite patience with you. As soon as you're a religious person and you claim to follow God and you don't love, Jesus got no time for you. No time for you. We are called to be people of love, and when I say love, that means you give unsurpassable worth to the other at cost to yourself. That means you are going to have to give up you in order to love them. It means you're going to have to give up your power, your privilege. You're going to have to give up the things that are important to you in order to love that other person. Are you following me? Yes. And if we want a witness of what Jesus is doing in the world, y'all, we don't need any more judgmental Christians. We're chock full of them. But what makes us followers of Jesus, what makes us followers of the way of Christ is the way of love. It's the way of unsurpassable worth to the other at cost to ourselves. Are you following me? I mean, we just heard the song. It goes, and they'll know we are Christians by our t-shirts, by our t-shirts, and they'll... Oh, wait, I got that wrong. Let me try that again. And they'll know we are Christians by our bumper stickers, by our bumper stickers. Yes, they'll... Wait, sorry, messed that up. And they'll know we are Christians because I listen to K-Love 104.5, because I listen to K-Love. Look, y'all, okay, let me be honest. I'm not going to, if you wear t-shirts, you have bumper stickers, all that, that's great. But don't mistake that as the witness of Jesus Christ that he's called us to live in the world. They'll know we're Christians, and we transform the world by the way we love. And it's not sweet, squeaky love. It's love that costs you something. Are you following? look, I know it's really chaotic out there. It's super chaotic out there. There's lots of decisions going on that we can't do anything about. It's hard work. It's very chaotic out there. And so it can freeze us and say, well, then what do we do? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. We start by looking inwards and saying, what are we called to do to love? And how do we change how we live out of and experience love? How do we start to pray for the people that are frustrating us? How do we begin to love the people and how do we begin then not to worry about all the big things that are out there, but then maybe we are called to love those who are sitting to your left and to your right. Those people right in your radius, to give them unsurpassable worth, to give them the kind of love and chance that they need. When we look inside and say, I want to make a change, it starts in you. When you ascribe to the law of love. I had to do it. I went through a period of time, I think like a lot of people do, they're like, am I doing enough? No, do I go to church enough? Am I giving enough? Am I nice enough? Am I praying enough? And then I reminded myself, no, I'm just called to love God and love my neighbor and do the best that I can. So I tattooed the shin on me. I tattooed it on me to remind myself that what I'm called to do is love God and love my neighbor. So I bound it as a symbol to my hand, but I did it with a crooked line because some days I'm good at it and some days I'm not. Are you with me? Yeah. But it's my reminder of what I'm called to do is live out of love. May you live now and always, giving unsurpassable worth to the other at cost to yourself, to a world that desperately needs to know the love of Jesus, who died out of love for you and rises so that you will do the same. If you'll pray with me. Lord God, you have called your servants to ventures of which we cannot see the ending, on paths as yet untrodden, through perils unknown. Give us faith to go out in good courage, not knowing where we go, but only that your hand is leading us and your love supporting us. In the name of love, whose name is Jesus. Amen.